my god, that was intense. What? That I wasn't expecting that reaction. I did not want to start off like this. Why did that get to me? I feel silly now. Hi everyone. Anyway. Okay, so what was I saying? I got a new mic. Hopefully you guys can hear me better because the sound on the last one was absolutely horrible. Apologize for that. But I did change the name of this series because I felt like it didn't. Names have been changed to protect the guilty. I feel like they aren't really being changed, because this is a video. I'm not changing names. What I'm doing is censoring the names. So names have been censored to protect the guilty is what I'm going with. Now, yes. The more I think about it, the more I realize that I don't want the entire channel to be about my story. I want to incorporate other things. I think I did mention that. So what I'm thinking is this will be a series within my channel. So yeah, so this is episode 1 of Names Have Been Censored to Protect the Guilty, because we're not changing them, we're censoring, right? This is a video, it's not a book. To start off, I wanted to talk about my history with journaling. Basically, I've been journaling since junior high, since I was a teenager. I've always really just journaled about my day, about my feelings. If there was anything significant going on that day, I might, either vent about it or celebrate it, stuff like that. When I met my first narcissist, obviously I didn't know he was a narcissist at the time. This was my first experience with any kind of feelings of love or whatever you want to call it. I guess what happened was first instance of that I was completely blind to. I was a child, about 13, 14. I let this person know that I was journaling. I don't know, I guess they were kind of just like hanging around at home and saw that I had a journal and blatantly just said, "Oh, can I read it?" And, me being a kid, I was like, okay, sure. Like, I don't care. Like, I've always been the type of person that I always felt like I really have nothing to hide, So I guess what happened was I realized that my journaling was a bit more than just talking about, the facts of like what happened today. I had breakfast or anything like that. It was a lot about my feelings. And yeah, some of those feelings were private. And I guess I thought it was my presumption at the time that he would just kind of like, flip through some pages and kind of be like, "Oh, cool, whatever," But he legit like started reading every single page, like starting from the last entry and just kept going. And at the time, I was just kind of like, what are you doing? I didn't say that, but, I felt weird about it, but I was like, yeah, whatever, I trust this guy, it's fine. But he read something that he was not happy with and had nothing to do with him, but it started this dialogue, right? Like, "Oh, why would you say something like that? Is that what you really think?" And, "Oh, now I see what you're all about." And it just bothered me because it's like, dude, like, first of all, this is a diary. This is just me putting words on paper in the moment, just spewing out whatever comes to my mind, right? So for me, anyway, and I'm sure this is true for a lot of people, when I write in my journal, it's just getting thoughts, whether fleeting or concrete, just getting thoughts out of your head and onto the page to kind of clear your mind. But he took it all like literal, like this is what I believe, and he took it way too far. He took it completely out of context. He took it way too far, and it started an argument. So it started an argument. I guess that was my first indication that this guy wasn't safe. But like I said, I had no experience with anyone, let alone a narcissist, in a relationship capacity. So I guess I kind of just, brushed it off and thought nothing of it. And, puppy love, I was like, oh, he's still my person and whatever. So I ended up marrying the guy, right? We had a couple of kids. I was very young when we got married. I had my first child at 15. We were married at 16. When I was 16, he was turning 18. It was a whole thing. Obviously, not going to get too much into that because it'll probably come out eventually. But that's not what I'm here to talk about. What I'm here to talk about is my history with journaling. So, up until that time when he asked to see my journal, I was very open about writing my journal. I was very trusting with like my parents and my sister as far as like, this is my journal, this is my private thoughts. These are my private thoughts, and that's it. Like, I trusted everyone around me to not invade my privacy, right? And even when, I handed him my journal, I didn't think he would go that deep into like reading every single word. I honestly, I was clueless. And that was my bad. That was my learning experience. If something is private, make sure to keep it private. So if anything, this is definitely a lesson for anyone out there. If someone asks to read your personal journal, just say no, say it's private. And I guarantee if they double down and say they absolutely need to read this thing, then that is a huge red flag. But anyway, so after that, I want to say I kind of didn't stop completely journaling, but I didn't journal as much. And I started writing, and I realize this now as I'm saying this, I started writing things in my journal very carefully. I was being very careful with what I wrote in my journal. I was being very conscious of the fact that someone might read this someday. And that, I think, was a turning point in my relationship with journaling, because it wasn't just for me anymore. It wasn't just a way to express myself. I was censoring myself almost. I started to avoid journaling little by little. Obviously, life happened. I had a kid. We got married, moved in together, had another kid. So by the time I was 20, I, just completely stopped journaling. I kept the journals that I had, though. And I'm sure I journaled along the way. I had some, journals after that, but I wrote very little in them because of this person. So, yeah, I guess I kind of resented the fact that he used my words against me and broke trust in the fact that, this is mine, so it became this thing where I started to realize that nothing was really mine anymore. So there came a point in my life that I started to miss it. I started to miss journaling. I realized that there was something missing from my life. And I also did, I guess, in lieu of journaling, I started to get into poetry. I started to get into writing short stories and writing, scripts for film, screenplays. I was writing other things, just trying to find ways to express my feelings and I guess my anxieties, my troubles, in a way that wasn't so direct. Obviously, poetry, you can be very vague and metaphorical. With short stories, I would, kind of put myself into my short stories, but change certain things so as to disguise, that this main character was me. The situations and the obstacles that my character was going through were similar to what I felt, but it was never exactly what I was thinking. But yeah, so there was a point where I felt that I wanted to get back into journaling. I really wanted to express my feelings more directly. Yeah, I just wanted to express how I felt, and I didn't feel comfortable doing it on paper because this person was, I knew he was reading my journals. I knew it. There were, it's going to sound so petty, but there were times where I did get back into journaling on paper. Obviously, I would have a journal where I would write, and I would try to hide it, but he would find it. I would put it, in my closet under my clothes or, in places where I thought he wouldn't find it, but he would always find it. And he would always read it and would never admit to it. Obviously, he would never admit to invading my privacy. But what he would do is he would try to ask me questions that were clearly triggered by my entries in my journal, so, and I would recognize it, obviously, I think there was one time that, I don't even know, I can't even give you an example. But yeah, anyway, so I knew he was reading my journal. I would set little traps for him sometimes where I would put my journal in a very open place, and I only wrote on the front page, just one thing that said, "You're a piece of I know you're reading this, and the fact that you're reading this proves that you're a piece of and I don't give a anymore. I hope you do read this, because it would just prove to me and to you how much of a piece of you really are." Basically, that was the gist of it. I purposely bought an empty journal just to write that into it. I left the pen on top in a very specific manner because the cover had a kind of a design. So I made sure to lay my pen and study exactly where the pen was laid on what pattern, and in what position on my journal it was laid. And of course, the next time I would come into the room, whether I had left the apartment completely or I just left the room and came back, it was moved. So clearly he read that. So it's petty, I know, but it proved to me, it just proved that I was right, that he was invading my privacy and reading my diary without my permission. So I knew that if I wanted to keep on journaling, I would have to figure something out that would make sure to secure this journal. So, all that, long story, not so short, to say that what I came up with was a digital journal. So what I did was on my computer, I opened a Word document, started journaling in a Word document, and I buried this document into the system files of my computer. So, I opened
a window, looked into the system files, picked a folder, made a note of what that folder was, picked another folder with, and I made sure that it was a folder that already existed with a lot of folders within it already, so that it wouldn't be suspicious. It wouldn't be like something that I created. So I believe there was a folder called language, lang, right? Within that folder, there was another one called English. There was another one that had something else. There was, I think it went like 5 folders in, and that's where I put my journal. Created another folder myself that labeled, I don't even remember what I labeled it. I didn't label it my name because I didn't want him to search in the computer for a folder with my name. I labeled it something completely stupid. I don't even remember what it was. And then I labeled my journal something completely stupid too.
Okay, so why did I pick it up again? Yeah, there came a point in our life together, all it together, I don't know. There came a point where I guess I just needed to express myself. I started to feel really lonely. I started to feel really isolated. Yeah, I was feeling very isolated. I was feeling very alone. I was far away from my family. I didn't really have anyone to talk to. The one person that I could talk to was my best friend. And while it's nice to express yourself to someone who can, you can banter with, right? You can talk back and forth, have a little dialogue with. I still missed that. I still missed the part of me expressing myself on page and talking things out with myself, because obviously when you're talking to a friend, there are certain things that you are going to leave out, right? Not to say that there are half truths or blatant lies. It's just certain things that you feel ashamed to admit, or you might have like forgotten in the moment, and then when you think of it, like it's the time is like not convenient for you to talk, stuff like that. So yeah, so I felt that I needed to start journaling again. So what I'm going to read to you guys in a bit is my very first digital journal. I don't remember exactly what year that was. I know I was about 20 years old because I definitely had my second child, and I had her when I was 20 years old. So
this is my first digital journal that I started. I'm not sure what year, but yeah, let's just go. Let's just do it. So, what led to this, right, was shut up. So I did mention that I kept my journals, right? So I kept all my journals that I had since I was a teenager, since junior high, and I don't want to even say like shut up. I want to even say like 6th grade. There's a parking lot right outside of my window anyway. So I had all these journals, I want to say since I was 11. Yeah. I had all these physical journals, right? These books that I had filled up. Some of them completely, some of them just a little bit, and moved them around with me. Every time I moved, I brought my journals with me. I'm pretty sure he probably found them and read them all, but I kept them tucked away in a box in like a storage, container or something, and just put them in the closet. Or he most likely read them all. Whatever. I don't care. But I got so upset, I think, that after I laid that trap for him, I guess I just got upset at the fact that like I didn't have anything that was mine, and tensions were pretty high at the time. We were in a new state. We had moved to Connecticut. It was just middle of nowhere, like absolutely cow town. Ugh, I hated it there. So yeah, it was pretty miserable. And I guess in like a fit of rage. Yeah, it was not a good time for me. I was very upset. I didn't want to be there. I didn't want to move in the first place. Yeah, it was bad. There was a lot going on. So what I did was I took all these journals and, dug them out of whatever storage box I had them in and threw them in the dumpster. Some of them I ripped up, some of them I didn't. Obviously, I regret doing that because, especially one in particular, there was one where it was just kind of like a composition notebook that I started when my eldest daughter was born. And I even wrote a poem for her, dedicated to her, me speaking to my child. And yeah, I ripped it up and threw it out. So that was a shame. But I was, I wasn't thinking, maybe I was thinking, I don't know. I just wanted to be done with these. And once I got the idea of starting a digital journal, I was like, let me just start fresh. I just wanted to, just start fresh. This would be the one journal that I would start, and it would be absolutely private. I tried my best to make sure that it would be. I don't know if he ever found it, but don't really care at this point. Yeah, so I think I copied this quote from one of my previous journals just because I really liked it. And it said, "This diary of thoughts is dedicated to the nostalgia of the past, the endurance of the present, and the adventure of the future." I didn't write who actually wrote that quote, but there's another quote beneath it that says, "A man who keeps a diary pays due toll to many tedious days. But life becomes eventful then, his busy hand forgets the pen. Most books indeed are records less of fullness than of emptiness." And that's by William Allingham. Yeah, I just really liked that. And I wanted to start this journal with that quote. Okay, so, you ready? Here we go. Okay. It starts off with, "I often wonder what is going on in that little head of hers." Talking about my eldest daughter, probably. "She's always so pensive and always coming up with topics that have nothing to do with what the conversation is about, and yet she's thinking about them still. How does she jump from one subject to another? I've heard it said before that anyone younger than oneself is truly older in spirit. I guess that is why my child seems so much older than she really is, and why when I say my age out loud, I feel like I'm telling a lie. Am I really only so young? How can that be if I feel I have lived longer and understand more than even my own parents ever will? How can it be I have only been around the sun 20 times?" Okay, so I was 20 years old. "I've always felt to be ahead of my time. My body says I'm 20, yet my mind seems to tell me that 30 is more like it." Okay, I wish. "People ask my age and I answer the question because I can barely believe it myself. I've tried lying. It doesn't work. I can never figure out what year to say I was born fast enough. Yet I feel as though I haven't achieved all that I should have by now." Oh, child, please. "I feel as if time is going too slow and too fast all at once." Yes. "I ask others and myself, if the day goes by so slowly, then why do the years pass us so fast? Only 5 years ago, I held my firstborn in one arm, wondering if I would ever have the pleasure to see her walk, and now I wonder the same about my secondborn. Such is life, I guess." Okay, so that was one entry. And that's another thing that I should mention. Because I was kind of hypervigilant at the time, I don't have any dates on these, don't have any places. It's just like I'm just telling you all of this just out of context of what I've written. Even though I had hidden this file so deep into the system files of my computer, I was still very vague in my writing. I remember that. I tried to I was just very careful. And yeah. So the way, I guess, the way I distinguished between entries was I would change the color of the font. All right, next entry. I hate it when it seems as though my life isn't mine. It depresses me to know that it might be true. I've always been someone's other daughter or someone's little sister, and now someone's wife. Why is it that no one ever knows me as Kelly? Period. No strings attached, just me. Why is it that I can never do what I want to do when I want to do it? Am I here to make something of myself or just dream of it? There are so many things I want to accomplish in my lifetime, and though I know I am still young, I feel as if I have to hurry or my time will run out. I'm 40-something years old and I still feel that way. It might actually be worse. It doesn't get better. 20-year-old me, yeah, doesn't get better. Next entry, and these are very short entries. I guess I think I would just kind of put in a little entry real quick, when I had some free time. Obviously I had 2 kids. Whenever I had time to myself, and probably while they were napping. So, yeah. So these entries are very short. Okay, next entry is, how many times do I have to repeat? Here we go. How many times do I have to repeat myself before people will listen to me? I hate the fact that nowadays one needs to break down and cry before anyone will pay any mind to what you have to say. I have to scream at the top of my lungs before I can get any credit. I mean, why should that be? I should be able to speak my mind freely and not have to worry about whether or not anyone will attack me for doing so. I mean, isn't that what free speech is all about? So this is a perfect example of me being cryptic and vague in my own journal. Yeah, obviously something happened where I was just frustrated and so I do remember that this first journal I was very careful not to put in too many details because I was just trying to vent, but trying to make sure that if this journal was ever found, that they wouldn't know specifics of what I was talking about. Anyway, that was that entry. Something must have happened. Next entry. And me venting again. Okay. Why is it that people just won't leave you alone when you want them to? I mean, you try to get away from everything and they follow you around everywhere you go. Oh, I know what this is about. It's so ridiculously annoying. Don't people stop to think that when someone moves from one place to another, it's usually because they didn't like where they were in the first place? You move to a new city or town, and everyone wants to come along for the ride. Huh. What was that about? Some have good intentions, but sometimes you just want to be on your own and by yourself. But then they get all resentful and say how you don't love them anymore and all that other crap. I think I know what this is about. So either way, you can't win. I don't get why people assume that when you start a new life, you want to start it with them. As my 7th grade math teacher brilliantly put it, don't ever assume anything because when you do, you make an ass out of you and me. I'm not sure, not 100% sure, but I don't know what this is about. Could be about somebody wanting to move to where we were, like follow us, from New York to where we were living, might have been family. I'm not sure, but my initial thought was, so there was this thing that my ex used to do that really annoyed the hell out of me. So whenever I was on the phone with whoever I was talking to, if I was on the phone speaking to someone and, we were watching television or something, we were in the living room watching television, what I would do is obviously, if I can't hear who I'm speaking on the phone with, I would move to another room, just so they could hear me better and so I could hear them better. So what he used to do that was so irritating was he would follow me into the next room, right? And while I'm on the phone with whoever, like say I was talking to my mom or something, you know, he'd be like, what is she saying? What, you know, like, what's going on? Like, it's like, I'm not done with the conversation. Can I finish the conversation first and then tell you? I can't speak to you and her at the same time. She's telling me something currently. I need to hear what she has to say first, and then I can relay the message to you if necessary, because it's not always about you. You don't need to know everything that's going on. But yeah, he would do that, and that would annoy me. Or, even better, sometimes, you know, I would just stay in the living room and talk on the phone, and because I was talking on the phone, he would be like, oh, you're speaking too loudly. So he would raise the volume of the TV, like, oh, I can't hear. So obviously, if he's raising the volume, now I can't hear. So I would have to move to the other room. And then he would follow me into the other room, like, what are you saying? What are you talking? I'm like, well, if you wanted to hear my conversation, why did you raise the volume? You know what I mean? So that was annoying. But anyway, I think that's what this was about. But yeah, next entry. Okay. Confusion is such a frustrating thing. One minute I feel at home here in Connecticut. I was in Connecticut. And the next I feel I should be jumping on the next bus back home. I don't know what it is, but I can't get my friends out of my head. All I do all day is think of how much fun we had together, how we all met, and of course how hard it was to say goodbye. Okay. I think I know what this is about. The worst part is I keep having these dreams about my old schools and my old friends, even friends that weren't even that close to me. I've dreamt of all the schools I've ever attended so far, except for my high school. I wonder why that is. Yeah, me too. And my best friend at the time has been in every one of them. It's so strange that when I'm alone or with the girls, all that goes through my mind is home. Yet, when I'm out with him, looking around at the town we've moved to, I don't miss it at all. But I love this apartment and everything. I just wish we were closer to home. Yeah, understandable. I just hope this will all pass, because if I keep thinking of how much I didn't want to come here, I'll make myself more miserable than I am now. And you know what that means? Depression. ... Depression. I hate it when that happens, and even though I don't feel too depressed now, I probably already am. I can never tell right away until it's too late. Yes. Yeah. I didn't realize I was struggling with depression until I was about 19, and my mom pointed it out to me. I was at my parents' house, and I don't know, I guess she just saw something in me that, you know, was just like, are you okay? And I'm like, yeah, I'm fine. She's like, you don't seem like yourself. And I'm like, yeah, I mean, I don't know, I'm just tired all the time, and I just don't, you know, whatever. She's like, are you depressed? And I'm like, no. You know, no, what are you talking about? Like, that's crazy. Like, why would I be depressed? I'm fine. And she's like, well, what is it? And I'm like, I don't know, I just kind of just don't feel like doing anything. And like, you know, even though the house is a mess, I don't really feel like cleaning, and just, you know, stuff like that. Like, I just didn't feel like doing anything. Didn't feel like cooking, didn't feel like cleaning. Just, I don't know, it was just kind of like, like, who cares, right? Like, just nothing matters anymore. And, you know, saying that now, I'm like, well, duh, Kelly, you're obviously depressed. But yeah, so that's basically what my mom said. She's like, that's, well, Kelly, that's what depression is. You know? I'm like, really? She's like, yeah. I'm like, oh, you know, because like a lot of people, you know, I'm 19 years old, and to me, depression is, you know, you're in bed crying and, you know, whatever. And I wasn't that, but yeah, I mean, depression is not just crying and, you know, not knowing why you're crying. It's just, it can be very debilitating in other ways. Fatigue is part of it. Sometimes you get like body aches. So I always thought I was sick too. That was another thing. All right, so next entry. That was a very short entry, but next one is, my battery's running out, so I'm probably just gonna, this is probably long enough. I'll just read one more entry and then that'll be the video. Yeah, I must be going insane. I've always imagined myself doing something and then acting it out when I'm alone or just in my head. Yeah, that's funny. Why I do this, I have no idea, but I always have. Sometimes I feel stupid because I feel like a little kid. Other times I just feel like I'm going insane, acting out things that have already happened and changing them around until they turn into what I wish would have happened. I often wonder if everyone does the same, or is it just me? It's not just you, Kelly. It's not just you. Everybody does that. I mean, there must be other people who do the same. Someone once told me that when you have a song stuck in your head that you can't get out, no matter how hard you try, it could be the beginning of insanity. So I sometimes wonder if my little mind plays are related, and that scares me. Like, I guess I genuinely thought I was going insane. Oh, that was actually a short one, too. Yeah, let me do this one more, because this is another short one. Okay. All my life, I've had this label over my head since I can remember. I've been known as a dreamer. Stop daydreaming. I'd hear it over and over again. But how can it be so? To me, all my so-called dreams aren't just dreams. I like to see them as goals. True, I have many, and in the short time we have here on this tiny planet we call home, I might not be able to achieve them all, but I wouldn't forgive myself if I didn't die trying. Yes. I mean, look at, creating this YouTube video with this. It's it's nice to realize that that part of me hasn't changed, It makes me feel good. Okay. I mean, if it were true that I'm nothing but a dreamer, then I'd be sitting on my sofa right now wishing I could be a singer or a writer or an artist instead of working on becoming one a little every day. Exactly. I don't expect to have success overnight. That would be silly. But I refuse to believe that I am a dreamer and nothing more. I know one day I will make it and prove to everyone that I am indeed an achiever that made all her dreams come true. I think that's a nice note to end on. Wow, that really got to me. Why did that get to me so much? Wow. I'm glad I ended there. Wow. I really didn't think that was gonna get to me so much. I didn't think I was gonna read that. I didn't think I was gonna read anything like that. I thought, one second. Oh my god, that was intense. Why did that? I wasn't expecting that reaction. I did not want to start off like this. Why did that get to me? I feel silly now. I think meeting that part of me from over 20, 25 years ago, that optimistic part of me, I wasn't expecting that because my memory of myself during that time was very dark. And to read that that I was still optimistic in that time, I think that just really got to me. Yeah, that was a pleasant surprise. It made me happy. These are not tears of sadness. These are tears of joy. It was nice to hear that and to read that I was still optimistic. I was still very much me. I kept that intact even though I was going through a lot. Yeah. Anyway, so that was a nice little trip to the past. Okay, I hope you guys had fun, and I'll see you next time. Thank you for joining me. That's the video. Bye.